Welcome to the Building Web3 Podcast. Today we discuss the future of AI and Web3, which could be a $3 trillion market, with the founder of VentureMiner. Learn how AI and Web3 are going to work together in the future and how venture studios transform ideas into successful startups. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Welcome to the Building Web3 Podcast. Today we have my good friend Matheus here with us. He is the founder of VentureMiner, a very interesting startup. Could you give us the story about what is VentureMiner and kind of what is its mission?
Hey, Jax. Hello, everyone. Thanks for sharing this space today. Awesome to be here. VentureMiner is a company, don't get the name wrong, it's not Miner Ventures. It's not about mining crypto or whatever. It is about mining ventures. So find all of those possible new ideas that can become businesses out there. That's our purpose, that's our vision, and we make them become real. We take them out of the paper. Have a whole story
Absolutely
behind it.
And how did you come up with this idea of starting VentureMiner and I guess mining for ventures?
Well, it evolved naturally. It started as a dev studio. We did not start with the idea of building ventures at the beginning. We were more like just providing services for third parties that wanted to develop things in Web3. Now we also do AI. For example, we have a Web3 AI project you want to develop. We can take this out from paper for a good price and all. That's how the company started. And our next step, since before the pandemics, was to invest in education, training new people. Like in 2019, 18, we were starting our first project, and it was very difficult to find good engineers, engineers that could develop smart contracts, that could do audits, and all. It was not so widespread. Everyone wanted to do an ICO, but no one had the idea. A lot of scams happened because of that, and a lot of hacks and all. We all know the history now. And we opened a small office in São Paulo, near the Avenida Paulista, a very noble place. And we were with everything just ready for us to start educating people with bootcamps and all. And then pandemics came. This put a halt in the company for about 2 years or so until things organized. We started mostly our traction with online bootcamps. Now we have trained more than 2,500 counting, reaching 3,000 this year of Web3, new Web3 devs, AI devs now. And we went to a lot of hackathons, we mentored those people, and we saw very good projects in the beginning that were failing because they didn't have the rails to go to market, they didn't have the tractions, or the founders were too young, or couldn't have a business plan, like some brilliant people, brilliant technical people that could have a great product in their hands, but they didn't have the mentorship or they didn't have the paths for that. And also the opposite, a lot of good business-oriented people that had brilliant ideas, access to the market and all, but they were too shallow in product because they didn't partner with the CTO, didn't know how to build and all. So we saw that we could close this gap with a ground level venture studio. We didn't raise VC. We even tried, but we saw that this wouldn't be a good strategy. We would build from ground up, pick those students. So we would bootstrap the companies. We are also bootstrapping VentureMiner. Everything we have from the revenues of our services is reinvested in those ventures. So this is how it evolved. It naturally evolved to be a company that is going to be giving birth to 1 or 2 unicorns per year, if all goes well, investing those brilliant hackathon ideas, bringing the good talents. The technology for us is quite commodity. We can build well. So that part, at least for that, or startups, they are not going to fail. They might fail because of regulation, of market fit. There are thousands of reasons for them to fail, but not because the product is going to be there developed. You see, we saw this need for the market to solving this pain of not being able to deliver well those projects, and this is why we composed VentureMiner to be as it is right now.
So let's talk a little bit about what a venture studio entails, because I think people listening along, they might be like, okay, so there's boot camps, you guys are training engineers, and then there's product ideas, and you guys are kind of helping probably create the ideas itself. And then once people have the engineers and they have the product, then you're also helping kind of with mentorship and being like, hey, this is how you run a business. You guys might be geniuses, but you need help on like doing lead generation, maybe like conversion, sales, all of those kinds of things. So you guys help with kind of that full life cycle.
Exactly. Usually, when people see a venture studio like this, either they think like a VC firm sitting in a pile of cash dispensing to people. This is not what we are. We are building the people that are asking for cash in those VC firms or angel investors and all. And also, we are not an accelerator. If you come here with a company, you're like too late for us. You already have something. You probably don't need us if you already have a company to accelerate. You should search for an accelerator for that. We are much more in the ideation phase. Now we are on a beta cohort, so we aren't even taking external people yet. Not because we don't want, it's just that we don't feel ready. One of our methodologies, much because of my personality as well. My co-founders, they always push me forward, but one of my main characteristics is that I'm like of a perfectionist. I try to do everything I want with I put my hands on. I want to do it with excellence. So in our factory, this is very good because we are in a satisfaction rate of almost 100% in more than 30 projects, 98 to be exact. Last year, we delivered 14 projects with 100% satisfaction. When trying to do that for venture studios, for something that's much more trial and error, this is much more difficult for me because making mistakes is part of it. And for me, is a personal flaw, I admit that. For me, it's much more difficult to offer that for people that I don't know. Offer something that we are going to have flaws and we are going to pivot quickly. So for me to open my venture studio for third parties, I would need to sort the situation somehow. I would need to speak with my co-founders. We would need to streamline this process to be, I don't want to waste other people's money, to be something as a product, as a risk, to acknowledge something that's going to make who is engaging with us and I comfortable at the same time. So for now, I cannot accept external projects yet. We are working for that. If we check our website, we have an alpha cohort and a beta cohort. We are working on internal projects from people that we know, so that we can open this venture studio in the future for the next few billionaires that are going to work with us.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about some of these startups that have come out of VentureMiner and kind of some of the success stories you guys have had?
Yeah, so we are working on this. Thanks for pointing this out, Jack, because this makes an evidence of what we're doing now. We are a good company track records for software factory for building our projects. We have a lot of good track record on that, the satisfaction score. For education as well, more than 2,500 people educated with good satisfaction. They all love the teaching side. They all can build after. When I mentor those people to go to hackathon, every time I have a couple of winners, not always the main prize, but bounties, and also we have good track record. Now, what we started last year is trying to combine these two inside of Venture Studio. So for now, in our alpha cohort and in our beta cohort, we didn't have any company with an exit yet. And we tried out like 6 projects yet. We are probably going to take 12, 20. We are going to keep on trying, rolling punches until we deliver our first project. And then I guess I'm going to consider my company ready for going out with my full first cohort, getting big VC money and doing crazy parties and invite you on the stage, Jax.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm waiting for the yacht invitations. That's kind of what I'm holding out to. I've said, I'm never coming to Brazil until I have a yacht invitation.
Yeah. And I'll have you to prepare the drinks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If people don't know this, I moonlight as a bartender, where I'm Latin American comedian, bartender, and the host of Building Web3.
That's a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, because you are very focused on education. Let's talk about, are you largely taking existing engineers like Web2 engineers and transitioning them into Web3? Or are you taking people that kind of have no background and you're training them up to be engineers?
So there is a lot of material out there for you to become a great engineer, like YouTube videos, online courses, but there is no much of a help when you want to give your first step It's much more of a threatening environment for you to learn. Let's say you are studying law, you are studying design, you are studying to be a dentist. Those are real cases that I had in my company. And you want to transition to IT. And then you find a lot of overwhelming material and you start to get more scary and scary about that. This is the common case for the majority of people, especially minorities, for entering the IT field. We are a field that is dominated by a specific kind of person, more than 60, 70 fall inside the same character, like mostly men, mostly living these regions under those circumstances. To break this barrier, you need some quality introductory education. Sometimes you need to pick people by hand, not literally, but in a boot camp, you need to be there, answer the questions, personalized questions for each person, for each educational pace. And this is not scalable, but someone has to do. Collecting trash out of our houses is not scalable, but someone has to do. Brushing your teeth every time we eat is not scalable, but it has to be done. So this groundwork of opening people's mind, this very noble work of educating someone, of inserting the information inside someone's head, requires this work of teaching, this non-scalable work of having a human being, AI possibly in the future, but for now to have a human being to do that. So this introductory part, this work of having someone convincing that, yes, I can do Web3, I can do tech, is what we excel the most. And those success cases I was mentioning about the hackathons, some of those, for example, my first in-person bootcamp out of Brazil, it was in Lisbon. Some of those people that won those prizes, those bounties, they were coding Web3 for the first time. And they had 5 lessons in a week. 3 hours per day, but it was very packed. And it's their merit, because I was just introducing the subject. They went all the way to go there, code, and earn a prize in a weekend hackathon. This is the kind of niches. This is the actual groundwork to grow Web3, to grow the amount of Web3 devs that I truly believe that can be the best introduction, the best part. When you build something and you have something, a product or program, an application for you to care for, the probability of you dropping out of it is much, much smaller. And also, I know that you're not building just a scam coin to rug pull people. You actually can develop a good smart contract, a good technical product to actually provide value to people.
Let's talk about some of the subjects that somebody has to learn in order to be a Web3 developer. There's things like smart contracts. What else do they really need to understand in order to make that transition?
Sometimes we have this speed run learning blockchain. I love this kind of thing, but done correctly. So I have some resources to point in that direction as well. When you go for the fundamentals, what is a smart contract? What is blockchain? What is putting data in a blockchain? For example, Ethereum, that I can now build an application on top of that. This kind of fundamentals is where you're going to really excel, so that you don't discover that your problem is unsolvable or unfeasible to solve in the middle of your development. So that we start your product ideation with blockchain in mind. So all of those introduction materials, I do a lot of bootcamps within Code Club that do a lot of those introductions. You have a lot of material on the each global hackathons online documents as well that can introduce you very quickly to programming. You have we have our website, VentureMiner.com/academy, that you're going to find a lot of sources there. This kind of material, these kind of resources can get you, without requiring any money, any prepayment, can get you as close as possible to these fundamentals, as close as possible to actually building something in less than 3 months, in less than 60 days sometimes.
Wow. So do you guys focus on a specific blockchain where you're like, hey, we found it the most easy to onboard people into the Ethereum ecosystem, or we found it most easy? Like recently I've been talking to a lot of people from Near. Do you guys focus on a specific blockchain or like a particular technical stack, or you're like, hey, we have modules for each?
Yeah, we are agnostic. It's just that to keep our educational free for the student, we need to gather sponsors for these boot camps, and most of our sponsors right now are inside the Ethereum ecosystem. They even deploy to some other blockchains, but they're mostly inside Ethereum. And also, a person learning well the fundamentals of blockchain and the apps inside Ethereum, when done well, can extrapolate for programming for NIA, for Polkadot, for Arbitrum, that is a layer 2. It's very quick. For Base, I have a lot of Base inside ETH as well. They are like the same ecosystem. But also for Solana, for like Cosmos, Polkadot, those more competitors. When you learn well what is a smart contract, you can even find, you can even try to search EVM compatible solutions inside these ecosystems, or you can do the gap. You can understand, okay, Ethereum works like that. Now I'm going to code for Solana. Now I'm going to code for a chain inside the Cosmos ecosystem. So Ethereum solves this way like this. Now when I'm coding a smart contract there, the storage is different. The way that the transactions are broadcasted is different. The consensus mechanism is different. If you understand the fundamentals, like when you learn how to drive a car very well, if you understand the fundamentals of how the pedal works, how the combustion engine works, later you can reapply this when driving a motorcycle, a jet ski, or something that works similarly, that has some of these same fundamentals. It's never wasted knowledge. You can always reapply.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning spoken languages. Many of the grammar structures are similar. Or,
Exactly.
in programming, like you learn a for loop, you learn if statements, you learn these conditional blocks, and then it's kind of just syntax and quirks of each different programming language. So let's talk a little bit, because you've talked a little bit earlier about AI and also Web3. So you guys have started to take on some more AI projects. Are you seeing there's a big fusion between AI and Web3, or these projects are largely separate?
Yeah, so when we started looking more deeply at AI, most of our services that we provide were fully for Web3, specializing in now. It was more in the educational part. We want to demystify some things about AI because we were seeing it happened between 2015 and 2019 blockchain, that we had that mass adoption boom, the ICO boom and all, but we also see that we had a very big lack of education to educate people on what they are using and what they are building. We were seeing the same problem happening with AI. We had this hypothesis: what if the market behaves the same way, and we could find a room for us to aggregate value there? So we start researching and teaching some introductory bootcamps. And not only we confirmed our hypothesis, but also we saw that we miscalculated the degree where this problem is happening. We have whole brands, whole industries going in a direction that is almost like jumping in a cliff, giving the data of people away, putting people under possible threats for this technology, mostly the cybersecurity part, that are there, they are being ignored, they are being pushed away and rolled over, and people are simply not aware. This is coming to our cell phones before we even ask it for this, and giving us even bigger threats, of course, with an agenda behind. So a lot of this motivation of like saving people, providing a safe escape for people that we find in Web3, we can also see happening in AI, especially because of data. After all, Web3 is a way for you to safeguard your data, for you to have control of who has your data or not, especially your money. Started with Bitcoin. My asset, my amount of assets is the data that I now can control using Bitcoin. Ethereum expanded for all of data, and you have all of this story. The same thing is happening with AI in an absurdly fast pace. It's coming from places that we did not ask, in days instead of waiting months for doing these leaps. And there is an insanely huge amount of investment being made in that direction. So it becomes like a dire need. Also, the market is pushing that direction. We are having demands for building AI systems now that don't have anything about Web3 in them. Investors throwing big money for AI while investment in Web3 is declining. So we have all of these movements in that direction. And it was time for us to stop and have a plan, an action plan for this. Not only for pursuing VC money, like I said, we are bootstrapping, going for the demands of the market, but also because we see those similarities in the industry. And it's almost a coincidence, just by case. The perfect solution for those things in AI is inside Web3. The verifiabilities that we need on the data for AI, the control over data, the incentives, the way to sort out those incentives for data sharing that we need for AI, they are inside Web3. So a lot of the pitfalls that AI have now, they could be solved by Web3, not only for you to raise more money from your VC, it's for you to actually put the technology, put those protocols to save the data from innocent people, to save the data from people that are not aware that they are sharing this data, that they are giving billions in the hand of powerful people, possibly even interfering in the results of elections, possibly even shaping how drugs are being made for treating diseases. We are doing that for free. Most people don't even know about that. We see a possible solution. We see that inside Web3. It was much by case, could be in another field, but we saw inside Web3, and this is why I see that there is a perfect convergence, a perfect union between those two techs.
Yeah, and I think this narrative will continue to grow, the AI Web3 fusion. Are there any particular blockchains or any particular like areas where you think like, hey, it's very poised to take advantage of AI, or it's very set up to infuse AI?
Yeah, so there's a lot of low-hanging fruits. A lot of the specialists have been speaking about this, like decentralized infrastructure for running AIs, for putting the data, the trained data, the model weights, and all of that. But I personally have a favorite that I see some people targeting, but don't have solutions for this yet. And I would love to have this as discussion, like a follow-up discussion, or even building that inside my company when we have the size for that. It is because one of the fundamental problems for AI agents, special kind of AI that can do that, it can have a to-do list, a list of tasks to complete. It can be like answering emails for you. It can be like a agent thing. It can be a live thing that you can interact
Like a personal assistant via
Yeah.
AI.
Those agents, they are limited. They are being controlled by a person because they are like held hostage. If you don't pay their own cloud bills, they're going to die. Like a base thing. So they are your product, they are your tool. Like I have a hammer. If I don't use the hammer is like a dormant object. They are there. This is AI, a tool for us to use, right? But they can do a leap the same way that a blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all, they can convince humans to work for them by providing financial incentives. Ethereum is convincing minute by minute a lot of people to work for Ethereum by dispensing block rewards. This is programming in the protocol. This creates like an entity, a living being that can maintain itself. Bitcoin, Ethereum, those blockchains, they cannot hire the GPUs themselves, the CPUs themselves. They cannot pay the electrical bills themselves, but they outsource the service for humans by giving tokenized incentives, right? Don't know if you see where I'm going. The same way an AI agent could try and keep itself alive by paying its own cloud bills. It provides services for others to pay its own cloud bills. For us to do that, they would need like credit cards, bank accounts, and all. And for having this, we still need IDs, like government issued IDs for you to have a credit card or for you to have a bank account and all. What's the solution for this? How to have a purchasing power, how to pay for things without having a bank account. Do you know, Jax? Any solution for this?
Well, of course, they could have a crypto wallet.
You see, this is the low-hanging fruit that I see that a lot of people are speaking about. We could have agents with crypto wallets, like smart accounts controlled by agents, for them to be like living beings. They could be providing services. They could be teaching. I could have an agent that learns from me or from all the great teachers out there how to teach and provide that for a very low, very accessible cost worldwide for everyone. Like a kid born in Brazil, in Africa, in India would have access for a low cost, for almost the same cost as a kid born in first world countries, for having basic education about math, about linguistics, about geography, about history, and all. That could be liberating for the humanity. I don't know. We are still running circles around this, but I don't know why we don't have this agent economy being discussed in Web3 yet. This for me is a very hot topic.
Absolutely. And if people in the future would like the Jax Dwyer smart agent, we will be charging a heavy premium for it because that guy is very smart and intelligent. Now, let's talk a little bit about building and managing tech teams, because you've trained many people on being Web3 engineers and now AI engineers. So what advice do you have for, founders when it comes to either hiring a tech team or, finding some kind of CTO? Because not everyone's technical at the end of the day.
Yeah, so this is more in the factory part. We do help a lot of companies on this, and there's a lot of situations. You first need to acknowledge what is in your power to solve. Because if you're like VC funded, or if you are in agreement with your co-founders that you need to increase your team, you need to hire, you need to build your big team and all, sometimes there's nothing that you can do. Your VC is asking you to inflate your company, and then you're going to manage a lot of people. Then you need to ask, do you know how to manage devs? Do you know how to make your dollars become application, your dollars become system when growing through a dev? Depending on how well you can manage, you can have like $1 per point of feature, point of work, or $1,000 for the same thing, depending on how badly managed. And don't get me wrong, most of the companies they are wasting thousands of dollars for changing the color of a button. Thousands of dollars in team if you divide the work done in a month per the amount you pay for the team, you're going to see that you're paying huge amount of money per development being done inside those companies, because they have to, because they choose this path. I always defend the path of outsourcing, not only because it provides outsourced services, it is because it's really, really, really much more effective when you do a closed scoped architecture, a closed scoped cost, you deliver that, and then it costs that thing, and then you have a maintenance cost well defined. I know most of the agencies, sorry for the word, most of the agencies fuck this up. The majority, you trust an agency and then they vanish, they don't deliver, they deliver a product with bugs. Yes, I know, unfortunately, this is true in the market, but there are some agencies, we are not alone, there are some agencies that do deliver. And this is why I personally always pick heavily on excellence, on like building with 100% satisfaction, because I see that this is what is different. We need an agency, a software agency that can fulfill the promise, that you don't need to sue them for them to deliver. But when you find that agency, please don't fill up your team with devs, with technical people before you have revenue, before you have a product market fit. We have been living crazy times that we're spending $1 million per year in development, and now even before you have paying customers, or 1% of that in revenue. That's crazy. This is why we had that bubble. This is why we had that big problem with many unicorns that are not unicorns anymore. Some of them don't even have revenue. So my suggestion always, even before this bubble, now after this bubble, is go low cost until you have product market fit. Have customers first, paying customers, know the paying customers, that you know what pains you are solving for these people. Outsource as much as you can. Keep your core on your just the things that you need to do yourself, speaking to the end user, selling your product, and then when you have enough revenue to sustain your team, and then you would build your team in house. Okay, because otherwise you're not going to have speed to pivot. You are not going to have time for doing your core tasks. You're going to be there fiddling with middle managers inside the tech team forever, costing 1,000 more. I'm not exaggerating, costing exactly 1,000, 3 orders of magnitude more to do a feature than it would if you outsourced that correctly.
And let's talk about how you can effectively outsource, because people might be like, well, this sounds great, but like, how do I even find an agency that will deliver? Because we talked about like many agencies are not able to, and you almost have to sue them to get the work. So how do you go about evaluating an agency? How do you go about finding one?
This is the thing. It's much more about knowing them, having a relationship with the founders, the people behind, because every agency has a time, a maturity time, and most of them evolve to being like SaaS provider or just some white label solution. Is this how they grow? This is not me speaking. You see, everyone speaking about software agencies and how they evolve. They grow up to a point where they cannot provide customized solutions anymore. The revenue is increasing, but the profitability is decreasing, and then they have to start massifying this. So this is how you find them in your cold email. This is how you find them in ads, because they are this majority at this maturity point. Sorry, they are at the point that they can invest to reach out to you. So if your purchasing decision is by the ad that you saw, by the cold email that you received, or by that high class indication that you found on Google, or that you found with someone that didn't have too much of a filter, you're probably filtering by the worst agency for you to pick at that moment. And the low profile agencies that don't have money to invest in cold email outreach, how to invest in Google ads to appear first in search in social media, those are probably in a better maturity stage for you to work with. A CTO that was working in a big company that just opened that studio, or a small team that started to pick outsourcing demands because their product is not requiring too much upkeep anymore. And that's difficult to find, because every good senior at some point, there is a part in the career that he says, now I want to go out, have a farm, and never touch a computer again. At this point, you need to pick him behind this part in career, or he goes for management. So like I did. So this kind of path for you to find an agency is very difficult. This is why we still provide services in our studio, not as openly as we did like 3 years ago, but we still take on clients, especially when we see a possibility for acquiring equity in that company later. That one of our companies in our portfolio, we did it like this. It was a client and then become part of our studio with a smaller equity. We open one accession, and this is something that would develop a relationship. So like if you are listening to this podcast, you like the idea, you want to speak to me, if I can have someone to have a look on your project, or I can have someone from my network, perhaps you are willing to hire instead of outsourcing, I would love to help you on this as well.
Absolutely. And so let's go over some of the advice we've given for, aspiring founders is to kind of keep your costs low, outsource your development team, find an agency through relationships, through kind of people that maybe have recently left a larger tech firm and are more apt to do customized solutions. And then once you actually have product market fit, then start to increase your in-house team. And you could probably always poach people from the agency, truth be told.
Yeah, we covered some of the possible profiles. That is always the profile that the person that is already technical. Like if you are technical, you can build the product, go for it. Spend a few nights, a few weekends, go for that, and put that in the hand of paying people. That's another very specific suggestion.
Now, the interesting thing about the technical co-founders, or we'll call them the more technical people, maybe they just came out of a Google or Facebook or one of those larger firms. They largely, in my experience, lack the marketing and sales background. So they'll build a really good product, but then they're like, oh, wow, how do I actually get people to use this? That's always the tricky part that I see with that.
And this is most of my hackathon students as well. Like they are so consumed in their own assumptions, because it's not how we code. We make assumptions that this is going to look like that, and then we architect everything inside our head. And okay, now let's code. And we did that with our products. Our first product in our company, in our alpha cohort, was like that. We developed a great product. It's called NF Boost for solving the problem of items, digital items ownership inside games. So you non-fungible boosts so that each NFT is going to be a boost in there. And it was all working in our heads. We had the path, we had even the go-to-market mapped, and the product was delivered, was developed and delivered well. But the real world is not like this. The real world with paying customers, it's much more subjective. And for a technical founder, this doesn't make sense. Like it's random and whatever. This is not how we are programmed to think. And actually, you would the correct path, what we have learned and now what we are advising the people with those great projects that we see in hackathons and now, is like pick an MVP, develop it in a few hours. Don't do that in months. Do that in a few hours, like weeks of work, and put that in front of your first customer. In your second, don't have assumptions. Test your assumptions out there, and then you're going to have your first paying customers and all. And this is why we started a new cohort. We drew the line. Alpha cohort, we did like a technical founder. Beta cohort, we're doing more like a marketing-oriented cohort. We still have the tech team developing, but it's now all of those products are being led by the feedback of the early users, and it's working much better. This is something that a technical co-founder or a technical founder it's going to have to learn to do this other path. Usually I have two advisors, my left brain and my right brain, and then I learn from them to do my venture, my app. This is not how venture capital work at all. It's not big saying as well. You can find this open in the literature. You should go for your early clients first. Sometimes you go just with a spreadsheet, just with a Google form, and then you start pivoting from that. The biggest companies that we use nowadays, they start like this, just with a small MVP.
Absolutely. And let's talk about, so let's say somebody's building, if you have an example of a Web3 project, or you could just use like some kind of DeFi protocol where they're building a new DeFi protocol. And how would you recommend they get that in front of users? Because I think many people in the traditional lands of marketing might be like, well, you might send cold emails, you might do cold DMs, you might post in some kind of forums of people that are already using these. So how do you see people effectively market their product so that they can get some feedback on their initial product?
Okay. So I could name a few positive and negative cases like this. For example, this one I mentioned, NF Boost. We had a great idea of using NFTs that no one can question that is a protocol that enables that. But also we had an NFT frenzy that everyone was just releasing NFTs for the sake of it. And it burned the market. And also our timing was very bad at the release for many reasons. It could be a separate story for a separate podcast. But we have a good example for that firm that we onboarded on our beta cohort. That was a client that is called Take Carbon. They are doing a carbon credit. Actually, the correct spelling is take, because it's like a Japanese word. Take Carbon. They are doing a carbon credit for people to provide liquidity in Uniswap, so like a DeFi idea as well, for you to provide liquidity for those carbon credits, for you to foster the production of these projects. They are like using this available capital of people that want to later they want to compensate their own emissions as a liquidity provision in these pools for their own token, for bringing those carbon credits to live. They have people both offering carbon credits and people offsetting the carbon credits there. This was a very clever idea that they could, the founder team, we are not owner of this project in any way, we just took a small part of equity in the studio as a test. So the founder team, they are brilliant how they are bringing that with the exact companies, with the Web2 companies that have this problem. And what they are doing is solving a Web2 pain with liquidity pools in Uniswap. It's not like advertising financial gains for speculators, for people to speculate upon the token. That's most of these cases of big pumps that we see. It's actually the opposite. Is You're not going to have financial gains. You're not going to speculate. The token is almost stable, but those 30% fees that you're currently paying in the traditional financial system, you're going to pay 4% now by using this technology here. They are very clever in solving that problem. And when you solve a real problem, your effort to sell that, your effort to put that in front of paying customers and convincing them to buy, it's much, 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 much lower than if you have some crazy idea or some crazy NFTs for people to buy, believing that is going to be worth more in the future. So about DeFi, we don't even do crypto at all. In our company, we don't have cases with crypto, like pumping coins that valuated, coins that we did a good token economics, because we are much more in delivering value for the end users, so in paying for the end users with technology than we are for speculation. And perhaps this is why we are poor. We don't have a yacht yet.
No, I'm sure the time is coming. So if people want to get involved with VentureMiner, well, actually, first, let me say, are there any upcoming milestones or projects you guys have coming up that kind of the community can look forward to seeing? You've talked about these different cohorts.
Yeah, so we are going hard for the educational part. We're going to have 2 big boot camps at ECC now next month. I can't announce today, but you're probably going to see in our socials tomorrow or Monday. That first time we're coming out with good players, good partners to do it hot. And we do have one educational project of our own inside the beta cohort that is called Academy. That we are pursuing that idea of agents, teaching our agents. We start to teach people how to code. If AI is going to replace myself, I am going to make that AI. That's what I believe. So this could be a possible announcement for people to follow. If that project goes well, we are going to finish the bootstrapping for it. Bootstrapping is good, but it's too slow. And then we are going to start receiving or collecting offers for investment for this, if any. Don't know. It might be like, we are open for investment. And then we have a thumbs up. That could happen as well, but I'm positive. Could happen. Let's see how it goes. And we are also opening our first cohort someday this year, next year. Be sure that when we open it, we are going to be ready for it. It's not going to be like an attempt and an adventure. We are really going to be ready to be a good venture studio. So stay tuned. If you see a release date for a V1 in our website, it is good. It's solid material.
Perfect. Well, where can listeners come to learn more about VentureMiner, call out any kind of social media you have, any kind of website, so they can stay up to date with the latest developments?
Perfect. VentureMiner.com is our website. You're going to find us by VentureMiner in Twitter, X, right? And in LinkedIn as well. We have some job openings. We have some publications about events that we are doing. So please feel free to share, to comment, to ask questions, request for your invitation for our first yacht party that we're going to do with Jax here in Brazil. Okay, so this is all call to actions for you to do after this, after watching this, and I hope that you have enjoyed.
Absolutely. And I think everyone is going to be incredibly excited for the yacht party and all of the exciting milestones and projects that VentureMiner has coming up. And then also, could you call out your own social media so they can connect with you?
Yes, Matheus Pagani. You can find me on Twitter as Matheus Pagani77. Yes, there are other Matheus Paganis registered. In LinkedIn is MD Pagani, if you want to follow me there, like for my middle name, MD Pagani. And also, if you find VentureMiner, you're going to find me as well. It's not going to be too many hops.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining this episode of Building Web3, and to all the listeners, go out there and build something cool and connect with Matheus online and VentureMiner. Thank you all for listening.